The Arctic wind cuts through the silence like a blade. Ice stretches endlessly in every direction, white and brutal and unforgiving. The temperature hovers at 20 below zero. Nothing moves except the slow drift of snow across frozen wasteland. This is the edge of the world, where only the strongest survive. Somewhere in this frozen desert, a man named Dr. Marcus Chen navigates his small research boat between floating chunks of ice. He's an Arctic researcher, 38 years old, weathered by years of studying climate patterns in the most hostile place on Earth. His beard is frosted white, his eyes sharp behind protective goggles. He has spent months documenting the alarming rate at which the ice sheets are disappearing. Marcus cuts the engine and lets his boat drift. The silence is absolute. He pulls out his camera, snapping photos of ice formations that won't exist next year. Maybe not even next month. The ice here is breaking apart faster than anyone predicted. Chunks the size of city blocks crack and separate, floating away like broken dreams. He's seen it happening for weeks now, but it never stops being devastating. This is his life's work, documenting the death of an entire ecosystem. Then he sees something that makes his blood freeze. On a piece of ice about 200 yards away, something moves. Marcus grabs his binoculars, adjusts the focus, and his heart sinks. A polar bear. Not just any polar bear, but a massive male, easily 800 pounds. The bear paces back and forth on an ice sheet no bigger than a basketball court. The ice beneath his paws is thin, almost transparent in places. Dark water laps at the edges, eating away at his tiny prison with every wave. Marcus watches in horror as the bear tries to jump to a nearby chunk of ice. The gap is too wide. The bear lands in the water with a splash that echoes across the frozen silence. Polar bears are incredible swimmers, but this water is different. It's too cold, too rough, and there's nowhere close enough to climb out. The bear struggles his massive paws, clawing at ice that breaks away in his grip. After what feels like an eternity, he manages to haul himself back onto his shrinking platform. He shakes the water from his fur, but Marcus can see the exhaustion in every movement. The ice sheet is melting fast. What was the size of a basketball court 10 minutes ago is now barely the size of a small bedroom. The bear has maybe an hour or two at most before his world disappears completely beneath the waves. Marcus grips his binoculars tighter. His boat is small, built for research, not rescue. He has no special equipment, no tranquilizer guns, no backup team. Just him, his boat, a flare gun for emergencies, and a bear that weighs more than his entire vessel. Every instinct tells him to leave. Polar bears are apex predators capable of crushing a human skull with one swipe. Even if he could somehow get close enough to help, what then? How do you rescue something that could kill you without even trying? But as Marcus watches the bear pace in desperate circles, something inside him snaps. This isn't just about one animal. This bear is drowning because of what humans have done to his world. The ice is melting because of climate change, because of carbon emissions, because people like Marcus study the problem while the world burns. Marcus starts his engine. The sound shatters the Arctic silence like a gunshot. The bear's head snaps up, and for a moment their eyes meet across the water. The bear doesn't move. He just stands there as if he knows what's coming. Marcus navigates slowly between the ice chunks, his heart hammering against his ribs. The closer he gets, the more massive the bear becomes. This is easily the largest polar bear he's ever seen. Scars crisscross the animal's snout, signs of old battles won. His paws are the size of dinner plates. At 50 yards, Marcus cuts the engine again. Any closer and the bear might panic, might try to swim toward the boat. That would be a disaster for both of them. Marcus pulls out his flare gun, the only weapon he has. Not to hurt the bear, but to try something desperate, something that might just work. You won't believe what happens next. Marcus fires the flare not at the bear, but past him toward a larger chunk of ice about 30 yards away. The bright red flare arcs through the air like a comet landing on the ice with a brilliant explosion of light and sparks. The bear jumps back, startled. But then something incredible happens. The flare continues to burn on the distant ice, creating a bright beacon. The bear stares at it, then at Marcus, then back at the flare. It's as if something clicks in the animal's mind. The bear moves to the edge of his shrinking platform, looking toward the burning flare. He's calculating the distance, weighing his chances. Marcus holds his breath. This is the moment everything changes. The bear takes 3 steps back, then charges forward with explosive power. He launches himself into the air, his massive body flying over the dark water. For a heart-stopping second, he hangs suspended between ice and ocean, between life and death. Then he crashes down onto the larger ice sheet just feet from the still-burning flare. But Marcus isn't done. The ice sheet the bear just reached is bigger, but it's still not safe. It's still floating, still melting, still temporary. Marcus starts his engine again and moves closer to the new ice sheet. The bear watches him approach, no longer pacing, no longer panicked. There's something different in his posture now, something that looks almost like trust. Marcus reaches into his emergency kit and pulls out his emergency beacon designed to signal rescue helicopters. He attaches it to a length of rope, then does something that seems completely insane. He tosses the beacon onto the ice near the bear. The device immediately starts flashing and beeping, sending out a distress signal that will reach emergency services across the Arctic. The bear sniffs the device, but doesn't touch it. He looks at Marcus, and in that moment, something passes between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. The bear turns and walks to the far edge of the ice sheet, the edge closest to the solid ice shelf, about 100 yards away. It's still too far to jump, but now there's help coming. Within 20 minutes, Marcus hears the sound he's been praying for. Helicopter rotors, distant, but getting closer. The Arctic rescue team responds to emergency beacons fast up here, where every second can mean the difference between life and death. But as the helicopter approaches, Marcus realizes something that makes his stomach drop. The rescue team will see the beacon, but they won't see the bear. The animal has moved to the far side of the ice sheet, out of view. Marcus makes a decision that will haunt him for the rest of his life. He grabs his camera and starts recording. Not for science, not for research, but to document something the world needs to see. He films the bear on his shrinking island. He films the helicopter approaching. He films the moment when the rescue team spots the massive polar bear and realizes what's really happening. The helicopter hovers overhead, and Marcus can see the crew inside pointing and talking rapidly. They drop a line with a net, not for the bear, but near him. It's bait, a way to create a path. The pilot, incredibly skilled, maneuvers the helicopter to create wind currents that push the ice sheet closer to the main ice shelf. Inch by inch, yard by yard, the gap closes. You won't believe what happens next. The bear, as if understanding the plan, moves to the edge closest to the ice shelf. When the gap narrows to about 15 feet, he doesn't hesitate. He jumps again, this time landing safely on solid ice that stretches for miles. The bear turns back once, looking at Marcus, looking at the helicopter, then disappears into the Arctic wilderness. But the story doesn't end there. Marcus's footage goes viral within hours of his return to civilization. The video of a polar bear stranded on melting ice, rescued by human ingenuity and teamwork, becomes a symbol of the climate crisis. It's shared millions of times across social media. News stations pick it up. Environmental groups use it in campaigns. The image of that massive bear alone on his shrinking world becomes the face of climate change. The response is immediate and overwhelming. Donations pour into Arctic conservation groups. Politicians who had never spoken about climate change suddenly can't stop talking about it. The video sparks protests, petitions, and policy changes. A single bear's struggle becomes a rallying cry for an entire movement. Marcus becomes reluctant celebrity invited to speak at conferences and on talk shows. But he always brings the conversation back to the bigger picture. The bear he helped rescue was just one of thousands facing the same crisis. The Arctic is disappearing, and with it an entire way of life for the animals that call it home. Months later, Marcus returns to the same area for his research. The ice where he first spotted the stranded bear is completely gone now, nothing but open water. But satellite tracking suggests polar bear populations in the area are adapting, finding new hunting grounds, new ways to survive. The rescue sparked funding for better tracking, better protection, better understanding of how these incredible animals cope with a changing world. Standing on the deck of his research vessel, Marcus scans the horizon with his binoculars. Somewhere out there, the bear he rescued is still alive, still hunting, still surviving against impossible odds. The Arctic is still melting, still changing, still dying. But now the world is watching. Now the world cares. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of snow and salt and something else. Hope, maybe. Change. The possibility that it's not too late to save what's left of this frozen wilderness. Marcus adjusts his camera settings and keeps working, documenting not just the death of the Arctic, but its fight to live. And that bear, that magnificent, powerful, intelligent bear, becomes more than just another victim of climate change. He becomes a symbol of resilience, of survival, of the incredible things that happen when humans choose to help instead of harm. That's the story of one man's impossible rescue that changed everything. A researcher who refused to watch helplessly as the Arctic died. A bear who trusted a human when he had every reason not to. The ice may be melting, but the human spirit, the drive to protect what matters, that's stronger than ever. If this story moved, you share it. Talk about it. The bear is safe, but millions more aren't. The fight for the Arctic is far from over. Subscribe for more incredible stories of survival against impossible odds. Until next time, remember that sometimes one moment of courage can change the world.